from the UK, you can tell from the accent. You obviously love adventures, but like, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves to kick it off?
Yeah, so we are Chris and Julie Ramsey from Aberdeen in Scotland. And yeah, we've been EV owners for the last decade. We have a joint passion of EV driving. We own a Nissan Leaf, a first generation Nissan Leaf, and and we just love EV driving. The other combined passion that we have is we love travel and adventure. Back many moons ago, we did our first travel together was when we went backpacking, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we basically went backpacking around the world. We traveled through Asia, through Australia, and we went into America, Canada. We were here 17 years ago. But we've been married for about
over 20 years
over
now.
20 years. And we do these adventures and we're still married. But yeah, so we are passionate about travel and adventure, new communities, new cultures, and we just combined that with our love for electrification.
So you guys you're up for the challenge. You can follow along with the challenge and also take it on as well. What keeps you motivated? Keep trying and testing yourselves.
I mean, it's not glory, it's not rosy, is it, every day? There's challenges, and I think days like this and being able to engage with you guys tonight and seeing the people on the road and the people reaching out, that just eradicates that, and it makes it all worth it. And I feel it's important as well for me personally is to show how exciting and electric vehicles are, and if we can make a difference in the world and accelerate that adoption and show people how reliable and amazing they are and do a little bit to make it a cleaner world, then I feel like, you know, we've achieved something.
You talked about the adventure so far, so you're on your first leg of it. How are you feeling about it, and what's the biggest challenge that you guys have seen thus far until getting to Vancouver?
Well, during the Arctic, every day we had challenges, didn't we? I think the biggest challenge during the Arctic was that our schedule got compressed because the ice road was melting, and a lot quicker than we had. Melting and closing a lot quicker than we had expected. So we had a schedule to get back to Yellowknife from the Arctic, but because of the melting ice road due to climate change, which was confirmed by the operator of the ice road, we had to reduce our schedule by 10 days. So it was a race against the clock for getting back. So for me, that was a big challenge when we were up there, isn't it? Because we didn't expect that, and we had to change our whole way of moving, I guess, along the way.
As Julie said, the ice road melting was probably, outside of a few other aspects, that was probably our single biggest challenge that we faced. There's so many, but that was probably the big thing, to take 10 days out of a schedule that already has all the float in it taken out of it. It was just colossal.
Let's talk about the positive. So many of us in this room probably have never been that far north. What really stood out to you in terms of like the unexpected or surprising when you were up there?
Well, for me, we saw a polar bear in the wild. That was a magical day and a magical moment, wasn't it? It was so special.
When you've got that compression in your schedule and you kind of go, oh, and then suddenly that moment happens, and like everything goes away.
Everything disappears, puts everything in perspective, and you're just like in awe of this polar bear in front of you. So that was really, really magical. We were also lucky enough to see the Northern Lights when we were up there. So having the Ariya and just having the Northern Lights above you with nobody around, no light pollution or anything.
So you have 14 countries on your trip. Is there anything that you're particularly excited to see or do on this overall journey?
I think Canada set the bar really high, isn't it?
We do
just started, and
genuinely, we're not saying that because Banff and Jasper and the hospitality we've received from people across Canada as we've travelled through, just people, complete strangers, reaching out and saying, "Come and share our home with us," and things. It's just been very incredible.
Yeah, and to me, it's not about the countries. Right now on our trip, it's more about each day. Because each day is so different, and each day you're meeting different people, and you don't know what's going to happen every day, you know. So, you know, yes, the countries, but also we're just taking it day by day, and every day surprises us.
Jumping to the vehicle, Chris, can you tell us about some of the modifications you've made to the Ariya in order for this whole adventure to take place?
Yeah, I mean, outside the obvious, it's probably easy to say that car there is basically just that car there, but with smaller tyres.
That one's got smaller tires.
Yeah. Yeah, I said that wrong. Right? Yeah, so the modifications we've done is the obvious is the 39-inch wheels. And the BF Goodrich tires they're big rubber, small alloy wheels. And the idea behind that is when you see some of the videos going around, when we're in deep snow and we're on the ice, those tire pressures are currently sitting at 30 psi. They'll be sitting around 4 to 8 psi in those regions. So we can get traction and we can also displace all the weight of the car when we're on thin ice. But outside of that, the interior is exactly the same as the standard Ariya. The suspension system, the drivetrain, the battery, not being touched. It is exactly as it comes from the factory. And the only other thing we've actually done is underneath, you'll see like a big metal skid plate if you do look underneath. And the idea behind that is to protect everything. The battery up there, the front of the car, but also when we go onto ice or we hit anything or we onto a ridge, we can maybe carry a bit of momentum and slide off of it. So it acts like a bit of a sled as well. But in essence,
you've got the hitches. You've got a couple of hitches that have added to the front and the back as well.
And the hitches on the point keeps you all right. The hitches on there, so they're dual purpose. Obviously, we're jacking that car up to change the tire. We can't do it with a normal jack. So that's what they are. We put a jacking system into the tow hitch point on the back. We can jack up the car from any angle, change any tire on either side, or we can jack it up in the middle to do any repairs. And that's something I can say we didn't need to do. We need to change we need to remove a tire because we had one break with the car. I think we've got the part here to show you.
Yeah, this is an actual bit that's sheared from here.
So when we were in the Arctic, when you were in deep snow, the support vehicles had 44-inch wheels. They were a lot bigger than us, so they would churn up a lot of snow. So if we had deep snow, the only thing we could do with that car was just launch the car as fast as we could and hope that when we bottom out and we keep skimming, we act like a skimming stone. And when we bottom out, we come back up and we can get through that thick snow. On one occasion, we're in a boulder field in the snow, and then what happened was when we came down, there was a rock underneath. And we came down in between the wheel and it sheared this inner steering rack. And that's the only time we had any issues with the Ariya. We had to take a tire off. And our support team, to show how important they are, within about 30, 40 minutes, they had the tire off, this piece repaired, tire back on, and we were on the road again.
In minus temperature.
About minus 30 temperatures.
But genuinely though, the car had a beating in the Arctic, because obviously there's not smooth roads, there's lots of bumps and hills and all manner of terrains when we're up there, and the suspension was getting a right good beating, wasn't it? That stock suspension is on the car, and I think both Chris and I and the Arctic support team and everyone were just surprised at how amazed at how well the car has coped. There was very little damage to the car. Yeah. And very little repairs. We took a whole heap of spares with us in anticipation of it breaking down, because no one's taken an EV to those regions before. No one knows how it's going to perform. Even down from the battery to the electrics to the components, and we were fully prepared, but nothing happened. So it surprised us, and it's a testament to the build of the car. So
making those minimal modifications to kind of demonstrate just how capable essentially a stock EV is, we did it because it's still here and it's in one piece and it didn't have any issue.
Any memorable moments on the way to Vancouver thus far? Anything that's like really sticking out besides the polar bear? Sorry.
Yeah.
There's so many. I mean, somebody reached out to us on social media. There's a couple or a family from Jasper, and they are EV owners. And they said, hey, if you're passing by, do come by and say hello. You can get a charge, and we have a room for you in our house. You're more than welcome to come and join. And we were in Jasper. We messaged them and said, hey, we're here. And we met them, and it was like an instant connection, wasn't it? It was like we had known each other, but we don't. And we have this kind of this EV connection just makes you chat. And so we caught up with them. We got a charge. We spent the evening with them with dinner and everything, and we just got on like a house on fire. And so we had a really nice night, a nice bed to stay, and that was just incredible how people are just, like I said, so kind and reaching out and just happy to help. And That was memorable for me. But there's so many. That's just one.
Yeah.
We could talk all night, by the way, with the amount of stories.
We have
honestly.
got time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because you think we've from Cambridge Bay all the way down Yellowknife down here. We've met so many people, and honestly, we could chat all night about the incredible people and stories.
Last question. If you're going to leave everyone with one message, what would that be?
You want to? Yeah, you want to go?
Yeah, I
Lee?
mean, I think for me, it's a lot of people. We still have this thing about EVs. The thing that I say about people, if you're not convinced about an EV, the only barrier to going electric is this: it's no longer the cars. There is charging infrastructure anywhere needs to improve, but at the end of the day, the distances that most people travel, or the amount of times you travel long distance, the car is not the issue anymore. And I think it's just jump in the car, give it a go. You will be surprised. And then it's a case of just looking at your lifestyle, looking at how it can fit. And if you are going that one journey, 2 journeys where you do drive a long, long distance, don't feel bad about hiring a car if that's going to make you feel more comfortable. Because what you'll find is the more comfortable you get with an electric car, that car will become your long distance driver.
And for me, it's if you have a dream and you have a passion, you just go for it, because Chris had a dream, you have a passion, and a lot of people doubted you and a lot of people think it wasn't possible. And then look at us today, look at we're here sharing our story, we're doing pole to pole. Life is short, you've only got one chance, you know, just make the most of it and you just go and live your dreams. That's what we're doing, and we're testament to that. So if we can inspire others, no matter what you want to do in life, seriously, one life, just give it your best shot, and you'll surprise yourself.
Honestly, you guys are super inspirational.